Hi everyone, I'm GREYMOND. Today I'm continuing to do part 2 of the SensoriMotor OCD Q&A. I'm sorry if some people, obviously this is not for everybody, and it might seem boring to people who are not experienced in this type of OCD, but it is important to address because honestly there's just almost no information on SensoriMotor OCD. You know, that there's general stuff, but there's no specifics. So I do find it's very important to address. So please bear with me. I will return to my regularly scheduled programming in the next video. So the first question is, please talk about breathing OCD, a subset of SensoriMotor OCD. How to apply ERP for breathing OCD? Are we exposed to the breathing? We are exposed to breathing anyways, so how to do ERP? Does breathing OCD go away? Breathing OCD goes away just like any other type of OCD, sensory motor or otherwise, if you work on it. If you don't work on it, it's hard for me to imagine that you will have breathing OCD continuously. It probably will most likely shift to another type of OCD eventually, just because of the type of the theme. But I would say it probably will stay within a sensory motor family, so to speak. You know, you really do have to push through and work on it. How do you work on it? When you are breathing, every time you're noticing your breathing, you are in exposure, which is, that's every moment of the day, then every moment of the day you are in exposure. The problem is you're not doing response prevention. You're responding with a lot of fear, you're checking, you're doing compulsions, you're analyzing, you're reacting with fear. You have to choose to react without fear, even if you don't really feel like that's the right way to react. It's kind of like faking till you make it. You have to show your brain that none of this matters. And again, I will also link the video of how OCD works if you haven't seen that video, so you understand why the brain works this way. But you have to show your brain in every single way that this is not important, in the way that you're acting, in how what you're doing throughout the day. You know, it's because with OCD you just want to kind of lay down and cry, or just, you know, go to sleep and all those kinds of things, right? And that's gonna only make things worse. So you have to go out, you have to push yourself to live as normally as you can, to show your mind that this doesn't really matter. That's the way out of OCD. You know, I know it's difficult, I know it's a difficult road, but that's the way you get out. So another question, I had a lot of questions yesterday on the breathing, and I'm having a lot of questions today as well. So another person writes, being overly focused on one's breathing, hearing one's heartbeat. At times it seems impossible to relax. Why would one focus on autonomous processes? That's sensory motor OCD. That's why you focus on it. So if you try to figure out, is my heartbeat regular? Is it irregular? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? What if something bad happens, right? Not figuring all this out. Like, it is what it is, whatever. And then if it tells you, oh, now you're going to die. All right, I'm going to die, but I'm choosing not to react. You know, and you keep going like this. So you're whatevering the situation over and over again, not allowing yourself to get scared. Next question is, I have sensory motor OCD of awareness of the presence of thinking. I all of a sudden realize I'm thinking what to think rather than just thinking about whatever. Would ERP be just to allow what I'm aware, I'm thinking what to think? Who cares? Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So basically, yeah, it again, whatever in the situation. Yeah, I'm not thinking that much. I'm thinking too much. You know, what am I thinking about, right? You're not getting into solving any of these, what feels like an issue. They're not really issues. It just feels like an issue. Another one of the breathing OCD. My main fear is that I will have to continuously breathe, consciously breathe forever, all my life. How do I tackle this OCD thought? So first of all, it seems like you're doing compulsions to breathe a certain way. I might be wrong on this, but it seems like you're because you're saying I will consciously have to breathe. So if you feel like you're noticing your breathing and you can't stop noticing your breathing, it's because you are attaching it to fear. So if you say, yeah, I'm noticing my breathing, so what? Whatever. Eventually it will stop. So you're neutralizing the panic. And I mean, you're trying to neutralize the panic. That's the signal you're sending. It's not really, it doesn't really work right away because the brain is so used to you sending the other type of signals, right? But over time, it will reduce, you know? But right now, again, going back to what I'm saying, is like faking it because it will feel fake to you to say, whatever, I'm not reacting, you know, because you don't actually feel that when you say it, and that's okay. As long as you're going through the motions, like I said, no analyzing, doing things as you normally do. For example, some people asked me yesterday, I believe, about swallowing OCD. I feel like what if I swallow and it goes like the wrong way, and then something bad happens. So not eating certain foods, not avoiding foods, not swallowing on purpose, not doing any of these things that are gonna only drive OCD deeper. Because the more you do this, I'm telling you, the worse it's gonna get. So you really have to choose to refuse. I'm hyper aware about sleep, and I spend a lot of time in bed, and when I fall asleep, it's a light sleep. What is the ERP for this? Thank you so much. So the exposure is the fear of sleep. So every time you are about to go to sleep, you're in exposure. And response prevention is, instead of trying to make yourself fall asleep, you have to refuse to do that from now on. You're just saying, I'm going to fall asleep or not, or whatever. And if it tells you, well, bad things are going to happen if you don't fall asleep. What if you never recover? What if, whatever it tells you, right? You just say, whatever. I've heard it all before. I'm not reacting, So basically, no matter what it says, your response is the same. I don't care. I'm choosing not to care. I'm choosing not to react. And you're just pushing with that over and over. For most people, it bothers the person every hour of the day, Next question is, this is kind of two OCDs rolled into one, so it's important to mention. Can you talk more about breathing OCD, please? I have a problem. I focus on my breathing while I'm checking things like stove, windows, things in my bag, wallet, keys, phone, and I can't think about anything else except breathing in the moment. For example, while I'm checking the stove, I start to consciously breathe. It's like I have two compulsions at the same time, checking and conscious breathing. I can't check the stove once because I become aware of my breathing. I just can't focus on the checking it once because all my attention goes to breathing and distracts me. This has been going on for 3 years. I don't know how to do ERP for this kind of OCD. I don't have a fear that I'm going to die or that I will forget to breathe. It just pops up while I'm checking something. I simply can't stop thinking about it. And it all started while I was doing meditation. Suddenly a thought came, what if I never again experience breathing automatically without conscious attention? I went to a few psychologists and also tried medication, but nothing helped. I hope you understand my problem. It's hard to explain like this. Sorry, my English is bad because I'm from Croatia. Thank you. So the problem starts with the checking, right? The breathing is kind of the secondary thing to it in a sense. When you are checking and you feel like you didn't check correctly because you were focused on the breathing, that's when you say, well, I guess I didn't check good enough and everything bad is going to happen, and the house will catch on fire because the stove was not turned off and I just didn't see it because I was focused on the breathing. I'm choosing to leave. I'm choosing not to recheck. So every time you're checking, you're not double checking, triple checking, because you're trying to achieve that feeling of, yes, I really did check, I really was focused, So you're saying, yeah, I was focused on breathing, didn't check, So you're not doing anything. And same with the breathing, that, try to focus as little on it as possible. Not in terms of so you can check, but in terms of that, how I'm breathing is not important. How I'm checking is not important. Like that, So kind of tackling both at the same time, but focusing mainly, because it seems like the checking is the real issue. So things in, like, for example, like you're saying, things in your bag, right? So, is my keys in my bag? Oh, whatever. Yeah, I guess I didn't check right. So, okay, I'm just going to leave without my keys then, So just like that. Thank you, Ali. I have a question about bladder OCD. Feeling that you need to pee and getting anxious about it, even when you were at the bathroom for 5 minutes ago. So not going in the bathroom again. So if it tells you, well, you're not going to be able to hold it, well, then I'm not going to be able to hold it. But again, I'm not checking, Do you see a theme here? It's basically anytime you're getting any of these thoughts, you're just saying, whatever, I don't care. I'm done playing this game. Have to look at it this way, that you've suffered with it for so long. why are you keeping going to continuing to suffer just because your brain is telling you something? That part of the brain, again, I'll link the video at the end. It doesn't know what it's sending you, you know? It doesn't understand what those thoughts are. It's just repeating to you what you repeated to it. You know, in terms of the very first thought, it was just a random thought that popped into your mind. Out of 50,000 thoughts a day, one was weird. So that's everybody else as well. You know, they've done studies on this, like I said in earlier videos, and people with OCD and people without OCD get the same random weird thoughts from time to time. You know, it means nothing. You know, but just a person with OCD will say, well, what does this mean? You know, and then they start to really spin it. Next question is, my SensoriMotor OCD is about blinking and breathing. My fear is, what if I never stop noticing them forever? I don't have this kind of, do I blink or breathe right or something, just the fear of noticing them. Sometimes the OCD goes away for a few moments, but then comes back. What do you advise me to do? It's getting worse by time, thanks. So just kind of a note, I'm kind of reading a little bit weird because a lot of people's English is not their first language, so it's kind of hard to piece together sentences, so that's why I'm kind of reading a little bit off today. So in terms of the question, when it tells you, what if I stop noticing them forever? Okay, I stop noticing them forever. You know, the more you react with fear, the worse the fear is going to get. It doesn't matter how silly the thought is, how silly the fear is. It's still going to come back and grab you the more you react to it. Again, people are asking, can you recover from breathing OCD? You can recover from any OCD. You know, it doesn't matter if it's sensory motor or any other. Just do the work, you know. Another person was asking about subliminal, like sound waves, subliminal messaging to help get rid of OCD, like hypnosis kind of things. And in my experience, I don't find it to be effective. I've had a few clients who have tried it and they said that they didn't really feel any difference. So that's my experience. I do think with this kind of thing, though, it really depends on the person. I think some people would be more responsive to it than other people. So, you know, I don't think, to be honest, there's any harm in trying it either way. But I wouldn't put a lot of hope into it, because I'm telling you, ERP works every single time, but you have to do the response prevention part, not just the exposure. Anybody who has OCD does exposures, right? Because just having OCD is the exposure, right? But it's the response prevention. Person says, I have mainly swallowing obsession. I feel irresistible urge to swallow. I've been trying to resist for months now, but it doesn't work much. It makes it hard to talk and read loudly. How do I do ERP for this? It seems like you're doing still a lot of compulsions. So try to talk and read loudly on purpose as practice. And if you feel like, well, now I have too much saliva, or I feel like I need to swallow. So you're just focusing on the reading as much as possible, and after, you need to practice more. With this type of OCD, you just need to do exposures. I would say, with any type of OCD, if you really want to make a big push forward, you need to do 10 to 20 exposures a day on purpose. You know, if you are not getting that much, just, you know, in real life, right? Then you have to push it on purpose. Or say if you're getting them in real life, but you're not very successful with them, again, doing more exposures. And again, the response prevention, because if you are doing a lot of compulsions and you do one exposure where you do it right, but you've done like 50 compulsions in the last few hours, then the ratio is not good enough for you to recover. And I think that might be where you're going wrong. Next question is, again, hyperaware, swallowing and breathing. I've been dealing with both, and the common fear I have with them is death. I fear that I will choke on my food, my throat is too tight, or saliva is going into my lungs instead of my stomach. While breathing, I constantly monitor my breathing, and when bad smells or air conditioning is turned on, I freak out. If you could please explain on how to replace the almost hypochondriac reaction I get from these intrusive sensory motor actions. Well, you're just doing a lot of compulsions. What can I tell you? You need to reduce the compulsions by a lot, because that's really the reason for your problem not going away, At least start to reduce it. So like just in the example with the air conditioning, it's not an all or nothing situation, but you do have to at least try turning it on a little bit, and then kind of increase to a standard level as you feel comfortable, as your anxiety normalizes. Because the more you put yourself in exposures, the less anxiety you get, but it kind of goes down over the course of, each week should be a little bit less. So if you do each day, maybe like I'm saying, 5% more each day, in 20 days, you're free of compulsions, just pushing forward and on everything across the board. Don't just, I'm just gonna, for example, in this question, just tackle the air conditioning, or I'm just gonna tackle this situation. You can't really do it that way. It has to be all as a group, because as the, kind of the fear with that is that if you tackle the one thing, the other stuff gets worse. Next question is, I have pure OCD. I have done all the hard work refusing accepting OCD thoughts no matter what. But few days I have this thought of if I am suffering from various mental diseases that had happened to other people besides OCD, but I had accept these OCD thoughts by not reacting, saying, yes, I also suffer from these mental diseases. And it feels so real and true. I'm feeling very, very bad. Anxiety is very high. So when you're saying it, you have to say like, yeah, for sure, sarcastically, not actually believing in it, and choosing not to analyze after. So you said it, and then you're keeping busy and you're moving on. Don't allow yourself a lot of time by yourself, because that's going to create perfect opportunity for you to get further into OCD. The person is talking about awareness and how it's very distracting. This is how OCD goes. It goes from one thought to another. Sensory motor is not like different from any other one. Another question about breathing OCD after having a panic attack. I started doing a lot of research and looking things up on the internet to help me get over it, and then gave myself blinking OCD. I continued to ruminate and be obsessing about swallowing. For the most part, I'm over the breathing and swallowing obsession, but for some reason, the blinking obsession is lingering. What ERP can I do specifically for blinking? Any tips to stop me from ruminating? Just really watching yourself hour to hour. So monitor, where's my mind right now? Where are my thoughts? Are they on this? And every hour, if you can, I know it seems super annoying, but it really does work. If you put it on your phone, just as a list. So 10 o'clock, ruminated this much time. So like 10 to 11, 11 to 12, ruminated this much time. And then you keep yourself very accountable, and you will see your ruminations going to start to go down. And in terms of for OCD to never come back in the future, to make sure that OCD, I'm just reading, OCD will come back if you let it. So you have to educate yourself on how OCD works, what themes there are, which I'm sure you hear a lot on this channel. And if you do that, and if you are being aware of where's my mind at right now, what am I worrying about? Am I worrying about something that most people would not worry about? If you keep yourself in check, OCD doesn't have a chance. And then after your mind normalizes, once it's done, it's done. Most people pretty much everybody who I've ever talked to with OCD, and I talked to a lot of people, has been sensitive since the beginning, since they were little. So the sensitivity thing is something you will need to work in addition to make sure that you don't get too sensitive about some sort of a situation in real life, and then OCD sneaks in. So it's kind of an overall process to reduce the sensitivity and to educate yourself on how OCD works. And the two will prevent OCD from coming back. And this is, I find, the part that a lot of the doctors are missing, because they're not really talking to patients about how OCD works. What themes are there? Well, if you have this theme, for example, with sensory motor, a lot of the time body dysmorphic disorder and sensorimotor OCD kind of go hand in hand, you know. So that's something I see pretty much very, very often, I would say. Not all the time, but very, very often, you know. So if you have one and then you have some sort of fears about your appearance, you know, you have to look at it almost as the same kind of thing. Like, still, you know, intrusive thoughts. You can, you know, you can call it OCD. You can call it body dysmorphic disorder, right? It doesn't matter really what you call it. The thing is, you still can't believe your brain when it's telling you these things, you know, and you just have to say, no, I'm doing exposure response, whatever. It tells you, you look weird, whatever, I look weird, choosing to move on, you know, and doing it like that over and over again until it's gone. The brain will get with the program. And again, I'll link those videos. You will see, you will start to feel better, but only if you do the work. It will not happen on its own. You can't wait it out and you can't put it off, because every time, every day you're doing more compulsions, creating, convincing your brain more that this is important, you know. So you have to start now. You have to start doing the work, and then you will see that things will improve. I promise you, they will improve. But again, only if you do the work. I hope you find my videos helpful. That's the end of the Q&A. If you would like to do the recovery program, as always, all the information is on youhaveocd.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.